doing it to me.
All right, good evening. We are live. It is 6 p.m., Tuesday, March 26th, City Council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and public were duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Join me in standing for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Father, we thank you for the day. We thank you for the opportunity to serve this community. Just pray that you'll guide and lead our conversations tonight. Father, a couple of special requests as we lift up the family and friends of Bo Hammond, longtime Island resident, recently passed away. Just pray that you'll comfort them. And folks that are dealing with the loss in Baltimore today, just what a tragic story. Father, just pray that you would comfort them as they go through this trying time. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Nicole, roll call.
Councilmember Campson.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Bogosian.
Here.
Councilmember Myers.
Here.
Councilmember Hahn.
Here.
Councilmember Carroll.
Here.
Mayor Pounds.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. First item is citizens' comments.
Terry Hack.
Good evening. My name is Terry Hack, and I represent the owners of Wild Dunes Resort. Thank you for your continued efforts on all of the city issues. The ordinance before you has been discussed in many forums. The ordinance no longer calls for a decibel level requirement for Front Beach businesses. We admire the owners and the operators of Front Beach, yet it doesn't seem fair to carve out businesses in one area of the city, implying the city can trust Front Beach businesses to be responsible, but can't trust the rest of the businesses or residents in the city. I have to ask, is this noise ordinance only about Mr. and Mrs. Klaus against the Sweetgrass Inn? I personally have met with Mr. Klaus and Mrs. Klaus several times. November 14th, 2022, Mr. Klaus in his home presented me with a 2-page list of mandates and 5 points of absolutes. The resort has worked diligently and tirelessly to mitigate noise, removing 14 speakers at the pool. All amplified music at the pool deck has been suspended. The music and TV at the oyster catcher and the outside bar is turned off by 10. Pool hours have been decreased. Beloved cornhole and most activities on the resort pool have been suspended. Sound is monitored by the resort staff. Off-duty police are present on Fridays, Saturdays, and any special events. A manager on duty is available 24/7. Group and social contracts have noise clauses in them. Protocols are in place for vendor move in and out. All amplified music is hosted indoors. The 6th floor terrace and bar are no longer have amplified music, just to name a few of the mitigation measures. Mr. Klaus recently called the police regarding a single steel drum player in the middle of the afternoon. What other music best suits our vacation island vibe? He also called to complain about a harp playing for a bride to walk with her father into the ballroom. This weekend, the resort is hosting a local family's once-in-a-lifetime dream destination wedding. 3 days of planned events and activities for the special couple, their family and friends. Maybe even people on this council are attending. This is an important revenue source for the city in terms of accommodation and hospitality taxes, an important revenue source for our thriving resort. What is reasonable? We are a resort. We should bring joy. And yes, be very aware of our neighbors and all of the surrounding properties. Should a decibel level be mandatory for some, but not all businesses, it should not be lower than 75 decibels. All vacationers, vacation rental owners, businesses, and residents must abide by the decibel level that you're about to pass. Thank you for listening.
Vince, DeGangi?
We just call him Vince.
All right.
Nice to see everybody. Thank you, Mayor Pounds and City Council for taking up this complex issue and addressing the
Excuse me, Vince?
livability concerns of
Vince?
the island.
Vince, can you speak in the?
Oh, sorry. The livability concerns on the island. It is not lost on me that when I was on the Planning Commission a little over 4 years ago, we were having the same discussion. I did also submit a written comment, and I hope folks had a chance to read it. I believe it gives some color to the issues in our neighborhood, and if you haven't, please do. There's more details in that. My wife Christine and I have owned property on the island since 2002. We have lived here as permanent residents for the last 11 years. During our early years of property ownership, we had 2 rental properties. So to be clear, we do not oppose rental properties. We understand the value and support a healthy mix. Back then, our properties were managed by hands-on managers, Michael and Ashley Carroll. They did the screening, knew our neighbors, and if there was a problem, they addressed it themselves. I tell you this because it is a quite different picture now. Now we have more rental properties with higher frequency of rentals, more property managers, and more density. The reason why I'm here is that I support the noise ordinance and its approval at the strictest measures. I don't believe the city's phones will be ringing off the hook with complaints, but it does give enforcement a basic tool to work with. I also feel the ordinance, if approved, should be shared with renters to set expectations. We support visitors coming to the island and enjoying themselves, having a good time. However, we need to be sure that people understand not everyone is on vacation, and there are some of us who live here full time. We live in a beautiful place and are all for sharing our space. In closing, I would like to share this sign we had taped to our refrigerator, both our rental properties. It said, "Please enjoy our home and stay on the island, and remember to respect the peace and quiet of our neighbors." Thank you for your time and work in addressing this issue.
Shelley Miles?
Good evening, Mayor Pounds and council members. Thank you for allowing me to say a few words tonight on behalf of the Vacation Rental Property Management and on behalf of our homeowners at Exclusive Properties. I'm sure you receive dozens of emails weekly that are not the most enjoyable emails that you have to read. If you pass a decibel level ordinance that is low enough that the wind, AC, or pool pumps, traffic, and kids playing the pool would violate, then the amount of emails might be overwhelming. Speculation, but I would imagine it would be such. The engine of a gas-powered riding lawnmower can create noise decibels of up to 90 decibels while pushing mowers, often rank in the high 70s and low 80s. Now, obviously, people won't be mowing their grass at night, but did want to throw that out there. Gas-powered leaf blowers at the noisiest are 80 to 90 decibels. Electric models are quite a bit quieter with a decibel range of 65 to 70. We took a decibel reading on our own personal property with my husband's decibel meter app and in the yard on March 8th with no other noise around except a 15-mile-an-hour wind. The decibel reading averaged 74.5. If you haven't already done so, I would urge you to download a legitimate decimal meter app and measure the wind and the ocean noise to see if these readings are greater than 75. I know some neighbors have become more than frustrated with the current noise ordinance and saying it's too subjective. I know some neighbors are upset that legitimate violators are not being fined. I understand that an objective measurement needs to occur, and I agree. When our family lived at 411 Ocean Boulevard, we loved opening our windows this time of year and trying to hear the ocean when the tide was high and there was large waves. That was such a peaceful sound to fall asleep to, but on many occasions our neighbor's dog would bark incessantly and really irritate us. So as we got older, we got a little bit grumpier. We understand having some peace and quiet at night is expected. But to be able to revoke a rental license due to 5 noise infractions over a 12-month period time is too severe of a punishment. If a rental license is revoked, that could easily reduce the value of someone's home and retirement nest egg by 25 to 40%, resulting in possibly multi-million-dollar penalties. If enthusiastic golfers create noise celebrating a great shot and are caught exceeding the noise threshold, if after 5 violations does Wild Dunes lose its business license? If an annoying dog barks and keeps someone up at night 5 times a year, does the neighbor lose the same value as a vacation home who would lose its license? We are in favor of fining violators, but government shutting down rental homes due to noise levels lower than lawnmowers and leaf blowers is going to burden the police department and expose the city and taxpayers to possible lawsuits. Please take your time and implement an ordinance that is enforceable and not going to subject the city to more lawsuits. I appeal the council to consider founded noise violations be exempt from the license revocation defined by ordinance number 2021-14, 1117 to section, I'll give you a copy of this.
Ms. Miles, are you done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Thank you
Time's
for
up.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. Next item is approval of previous meetings minutes. City Council meeting February 27th, special City Council meeting executive session March 12th, special City Council meeting workshop March 12th, special City Council budget workshop March 19th, and all the March committee meetings are attached. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any edits or changes?
I have one comment. I'm on page 10 of the packet. It's E2, discussion of regulations on placement of political signs in the public right-of-way. I'm not certain that I said that we had suggested no changes. The committee didn't make any suggestions. We just came to full council to, is this on? Can everybody hear me? It doesn't sound right. The committee just wanted to hear from council whether it was something that we'd be interested in pursuing as a group. So we had no recommendation. We just wanted to talk it out effectively. Not sure how you're going to write that up, but that's my comment.
Okay. Oh,
Other edits, changes? We have a motion, and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. No special presentations, no old business. New business, we've talked about a couple of these at workshops. First one is consideration of appointment of Margaret Miller to the Accommodation Tax Advisory Committee. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Elizabeth, any comments or any other discussion from anyone?
No, just excited to add her to the
Yep.
committee, hopefully.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Second one, we've also discussed in some detail, consideration of proposal from CSE for comprehensive surveying of the southern end of the beach and additional coordination for Army Corps beneficial use project. Need a motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Next item, consideration of surf application of Share the Stroke for 2024 surf lessons permit that is in your packet, and this is being proposed at 34th Avenue. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Chief, won't you make your way up for this next one, if you don't mind? Chief Cornett, sorry. Chief Oliveris, don't call on me for this one. Consideration of mutual aid agreement with Berkeley County Sheriff's Office. Let's have a motion and a second, and then we'll get into discussion.
Motion to approve.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Chief, won't you just give us an overview of what this particular document's about, and then I may have a couple of questions for you when we get into it, so thank you.
Yes, sir. This is just a standard mutual aid agreement that we do with all of our neighboring agencies. And because we rely on agencies a little bit further inland sometimes to help us supplement our personnel, Berkeley County reached out and offered to do a mutual aid agreement. The difference in a mutual aid agreement for us and the fire department is we do not have automatic aids in law enforcement because of the duties and responsibilities we have dealing with people's rights and freedoms. So they do not allow automatic aid. But the mutual aid, we have to call and request them, or they can call and request us. These would typically be how we get Charleston County Sheriff's Office to come supplement us, Mount Pleasant to supplement us. We have one with Sullivan's Island. We have one with Somerville. We have one with City of Charleston, North Charleston, Hanahan. We've got a whole litany of these mutual aid agreements, and they're just the ability to bring extra personnel in to assist us with certain things.
And Chief, I know this is ahead of spring break and summer season primarily is your focus for putting this together.
Actually, this came from Sheriff Lewis. He reached out and said he wanted to initiate this, but it was something that we do want to pull on. We're looking at places like Myrtle Beach and North Myrtle Beach and how they conduct their operations when they know that they're going to be staffed during Memorial Day weekend because they have so many events going on. And one of the things they're doing are bringing in agencies from all over the state to help with that, and they do a mutual aid agreement with each of those agencies. I don't want to necessarily go that big, but I do see in the future a benefit of using that same type of plan for an operation to do or increase our personnel using mutual aid agreements with a little bit closer to the low country, not necessarily going all across the state, but I think this is a great opportunity for us to get that ball moving forward so that we can do something similar to what Myrtle Beach and North Myrtle Beach already do.
Is this something you would use for skip day?
Yes, it would be. Skip days, if we know in advance, we would. And even like spring break in general, what they do is they're able to bring in so many police officers that they've got police officers almost everywhere you walk. And they get them, Myrtle Beach will get them from Columbia, they'll get them from the upstate, they'll get them from all over. And pretty much everywhere you go, there's police officers. I would like to do something pretty close to that for those busy weeks like spring break when we know we get that increase of personnel. Memorial Day weekend, where we've seen in the past, we have some issues that pop up. Those would be when we use those things. If we have a senior skip day or just a planned event on the beach that we can prepare for in advance, then we would certainly use this for that.
Blair?
Chief, everything you said sounds great with them sending people to us to help. Do you envision us sending personnel to Berkeley County?
It'd have to be a very significant event. When you do mutual aid, you're typically pulling from the people right next to you. Now, we have gone to Somerville when they had a large protest out there and they needed personnel. We went there. Typically, we try not to go that far out. So what we've done in the past is when Mount Pleasant has had to go into the city of Charleston, we've backfilled and gone over to Mount Pleasant under the mutual aid agreement to cover their calls and assist them. I don't see it happening unless it's a very significant event. And we have done that with the manhunt. If you remember when they were searching for the individuals hiding in the woods, they did request assistance from our drone. We stayed in the Mount Pleasant side, so we were able to do that. And we've gone to Hanahan to use our drone for a missing endangered person as well. So it's not often that we do those things, very, very few times.
Thank you.
Chief, won't you take this opportunity just to talk a little bit more about the prep for spring break and season? I know you guys did a video. You've been making the rounds to school systems. Just expound on that a little bit, if you don't mind, just for resident and council benefit.
Certainly. We looked at what happened last year. One of the things that I came across is that we should do more to try to increase our communication with our school system. So we have reached out to all the school districts for Berkeley County, Charleston County, and Dorchester District 2 with the invitation for us to go to them and talk to them. And we did go to Berkeley County, we went to Charleston County school districts, and we talked with the superintendents and some of their leaders. And Dorchester District 2 has not responded yet. We're still trying to communicate with them, but we are reaching out to have those conversations. And what we're doing is we're saying, hey, if you hear of anything, let us know in advance. And we also have to notify them if we arrest a student from their school district anyways. So it's one of those things, they have a face-to-face conversation, and Charleston County School District and Berkeley County School District were both there and said, hey, we will help in any way. They even went as far as saying we don't condone senior skip day, but we will make announcements to all seniors to tell them that should you choose to go to one of these beaches to do something like that, understand that they are going to have zero tolerance and they're going to have heavy enforcement out there. So they're at the table with us communicating. And then what we did is I've set up those meetings to meet with Myrtle Beach. I haven't been able to get up there to meet with them yet because it's right in the middle of spring break. But we will be going to meet with Myrtle Beach. And then the other thing we've done is we created a video. I know many people saw the video from, I think it was Miami that put it out, where they broke up with spring break. And we didn't necessarily say we were breaking up, but we brought the police chiefs from Isle of Palms, Sullivan's Island, and Folly Beach to make a video and show our partners in the background, Charleston County and all of them, that we will have a presence, and just say that we want you to come out here, we want you to do the right thing and obey the law, but if you choose to come out here and break the law, we will put you in jail and we will prosecute you as far as we can. So we made those videos, and we've really beefed up our patrol operations so that we've got people here all week this week, and then you've got next week when Berkeley County and Charleston County are on spring break, we'll have staffing. Sheriff's Department has actually, we've hired off-duty deputies that would be out here most of this week and then most of next week as well.
If you haven't seen the video, it's very well done. I mean, I thought you guys did a great job on it, personally.
Mayor, I had one more question. I mean, based on what you just said, with the new law concerning concealed weapon and carry, and that anybody can open carry now, is there anything that you can do or that we can do to help you as far as limiting weapons in the Front Beach area or on the beach?
We recently had a meeting with SLED attorney, and that question was brought up because another beach community had an idea to try to maybe make an ordinance to ban them on beaches or beach access paths, and you cannot do that. The way it's written in state law, we would not be able to make an ordinance for that. There might be some ways, like if you have a special event, I think that Columbia has done this, where you can, if your event is clearly defined and fenced off, you can regulate during those times of that event only for those types of things. But other than that, it would be something we build into the event planning when we do our Front Beach Fest and those types of things.
So we could do, just kind of spitballing here, spring break fest for the weekend? And that would limit guns on the Front Beach, or not Front Beach, but, on the road on Ocean Boulevard.
It would have to be a city's established event, like program, and it would have to be fenced off, so you're controlling who's coming in and who's going out, and when they're coming in and going out, and you'd have to staff that so that you see all that. But
thank you.
Scott?
So I think the legislation excludes certain schools and other places for the law. Do you think that we could round up the other beach communities? I mean, to me, it seems logical that with large gatherings on the beach, or say at our rec center, these are still public, but they're also where families gather. Go for those exclusions. Maybe maybe we should try to push some legislation together to try to get an amendment. Do you think there's an appetite for that?
I think you can always have the discussion. I don't ever think there's a harm in having discussions at all. I do know we did bring up the rec center specifically and public playgrounds, and the way the law was passed, when they stated public buildings, they specifically said buildings. And so the belief from the attorney we were talking with and the prosecution committee was that, hey, this is not going to include your parks, it's not going to include your beaches, and because the way it was written.
You think they were deliberately excluded?
Yes, sir, that's kind of how they felt. But it is, I always would say, that's why we know who our legislators are. And when constitutional carry was being ready to be passed, it's one of the only times as a chief I've ever called our senator and said, hey, I think we need to look at this again. So I don't think it's wrong. I think that's the appropriate thing to do if we think we need changes.
And Scott, I think the South Carolina Beach Advocates would be I know they're focused a little bit differently, but that's the same communities that you're asking, could they band together and pull something off? I mean, I'm happy to take that back as a board member.
Talk to Chip, talk to Joe, and maybe we even pass the resolution just to get the word up to Columbia through our lobbyists or something. Yeah.
Mac, anything from you on, I'm assuming you're agreeing with Chief, or to Blair's question, anything we can do as a community? I mean, I think we're kind of boxed in.
Aware of. Senator Campson was opposed to it, though.
Yeah.
I talked with him about it, so.
Yeah.
Just get all the Second Amendment crazies if we do anything.
Yeah.
There is some legislation, I think, that Senator Campson is sponsoring right now that's proposing that you no longer will need training for concealed carry. And so he is working to make sure that doesn't pass. So if anyone is interested, get in touch with him about that.
That was actually included in this training that we have. Or in the law that just came out, you do not have to have training. They make it optional if you want to go to it. And they built that into the constitutional carry statute when they passed that.
So you no longer need it for concealed carry?
Correct. You don't have to have it because you don't have to have a concealed weapon permit. You might have to, when you get your concealed weapons permit, you still got to go through the class. You still have to have the training there, but you don't have to have a CWP It only applies when you're doing reciprocity in other states
Yeah.
that you might need that. But yes, to answer your question, CWP, you do have to have it, but most people don't need it.
Am I wrong then? Is there something that they're trying to pass an ordinance, a change in the concealed weapon permit so that you no longer need training for that?
I'm not aware of that. I do know that they
Okay, I
are looking
may
at
be wrong.
some cleanup bills to kind of clarify some of the things that came out with constitutional carry. I understand that that's being discussed, and that'll come out just to kind of clean up some of the language to explain some of the things that we don't necessarily have clear answers on. My understanding is that that's in the works. I have not heard anything about taking away the training from a CWP.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of this mutual aid agreement with Berkeley County Sheriff's Office, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item, our boards and commissions report. Board of Zoning Appeals, the minutes are attached. Planning Commission, minutes are attached. Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee, the minutes are attached. And Environmental Advisory Committee, those minutes are attached as well. Ordinances, petitions, and resolutions. Second reading, none. First reading, ordinance 2024-01, an ordinance to repeal and replace section 9-2-5 noise.
Mayor.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm disappointed to say I don't feel like we're ready to have a first reading on this ordinance at this time. I think it needs to go back to committee and to workshop. I just think there's more work. I don't believe we have a consensus on council to get anything through, and there's some points in here that I think needs more work. So I would like to make a motion that we defer the reading of first reading on this ordinance.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Do we
Oh,
get
sorry.
to have discussion at this point?
Okay.
Or, I'd like to ask Chief Cornett to come back up.
Sorry, Chief.
Sorry, I was hoping you wouldn't get too comfortable.
It's okay. Get my steps in.
I'd just like to remind council and the people of Isle of Palms why we took this up in the first place. And I believe it was because Chief Cornett asked us to. If you could just reiterate why you have asked for decibel levels, I think that'd be helpful for everyone.
Certainly. The decibel levels were really beneficial for us because right now the ordinance is so subjective. It's hard to defend a subjective ordinance when we make a charge. It's hard to defend that in court. If we have evidence that we can present, like a decibel reading, then we can do better in court with that. We have more likelihood of succeeding. When you look at speeding, for example, you stand out on the side of the road and you see a car coming at you and you say, gosh, that car looks like it's going super fast. And most of the time, that car is probably going 25, 30 miles an hour. But when they are speeding, we can't just look at it and say it's going fast and make a charge and win that in court. I have to use a calibrated radar that I'm certified to use and that I've made sure was working before I started my shift, and I've made sure the tuning forks were calibrated. I have to bring all that to court with me to testify for one speeding ticket because they want that evidence. The mere word of an officer is not necessarily, when I first got in law enforcement, that would be enough to convict somebody, but that is not the case today. CSI has come out and now they want fingerprints for speeding violations. The reality is they want to see evidence. They don't want me to just say, I heard this. They want us to be able to present something that shows that there was a violation. And if I just say, I think it was too loud, I don't have a way to defend that if a defense attorney says, based on what? I just go, based on my own opinion. All right, and I'm not an expert in noise by any means.
And that's not just for the Isle of Palms. I mean, this is pretty common for, would you agree that most cities across the United States are getting noise ordinances that have decibel levels because we now have the technology to read decibels and things like that? Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. There has definitely been a transition with communities moving to a decibel reading, and it's got a lot to do with being able to show what that violation is. And on the other side of that, if I own a business or I own a short-term rental or I'm at my house and I've got a large gathering, I can have a decibel reading there, and it helps me to be proactive to keep from ever getting to where the law enforcement officers are called. Most of our short-term rental companies, our property management companies, have already purchased those types of things and deployed them in their communities. They've been at the table with us giving their input and working with us very diligently and being very proactive at this. So most of them already have a noise monitoring device in their short-term rentals.
And to that point, my last question is, so having a decibel level, actually, in some ways, it makes it so that everybody knows the footing that we're on and everybody's on an equal footing. And you can't have somebody who thinks that 50 decibels is too high. If we set it at, whatever we set it at, if somebody comes in and says, well, I think it should be 50, it doesn't matter. If they can't complain anymore about just what they're unhappy with, right?
Correct. Whatever they can always complain.
They can always.
They can always complain. Now, whether or not it turns into a citation is totally different. We would only be able to go by what the ordinance says. And it's not a quick snippet. I have to get a consistent reading based on the ordinance that's out here now. I can't just walk up now. And one of the things we would teach our officers to do is when you get there, go to the opposite side and get a reading of what it sounds like where there's not noise. Then go to the side where you've got noise, and you've got a comparison at that point that you can determine where it's at. And then all of that is entered as evidence in court.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We've got a motion to defer this back to Public Safety Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Chief, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Again, just a reminder, first readings are typically by title only. So we're ordinance 2024-02, an ordinance to amend section 1-13-3-13, public participation. Is there a motion?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Next item, Douglas, I'm going to let you explain this, but I'll read it real quick. Emergency Ordinance 2024-02, an emergency ordinance amending Section 1 and Section 6 of Emergency Ordinance 2024-01 that we had passed, I guess, last council meeting. So,
Correct, yes.
Douglas.
This is the ordinance that deals with temporarily allowing seawalls on the oceanfront properties. We pretty quickly, after that ordinance was enacted, heard back from the two engineers that are kind of most, and I think actually the only two, heavily involved with designing these seawalls for property owners on the island. They pretty quickly said, we're going to have issue with the certification language that you will have included in the ordinance. If you'll recall, we borrowed that language from Edisto Beach. We hadn't heard about problems with that, but after we started hearing their concerns, we reached out to Edisto Beach, and we learned that they have yet to have somebody apply and be permitted and submit that language. So while we thought we were kind of adopting something that was routine and probably would be acceptable to engineers, we learned after we enacted it that it wouldn't be, and that we didn't think that it was realistic that a seawall could get permitted through the city process with that language in there. So we have been working through those engineers to try to come up with an agreeable language that they could live with. We've heard from MAC that there should be an offsetting if the city policy were to kind of dilute that language in the certification statement. There should be an offsetting requirement for the city to be held harmless in the event that lawsuits do come as a result of a seawall. So that's been added in there as well. All of this to say, we have just heard in literally the last hour from the engineer, the same two engineers that we've been working through up until this point, and they have advised that even the revised language, they have been advised by their attorney and by their insurance underwriters that they still should not sign the language in your packet tonight. So my recommendation would be give us an opportunity to go back to them again now that they have their attorneys and their insurance folks engaged, and see if we can come up with anything that would satisfy it. It sounds as though the extent of what they're going to be willing to do is sign that they're an engineer. So that might leave us in a position of wanting to work through the potential liabilities that might create for the city, but we would work on that and come back to you. I would just say that, as you will recall, this was a 60-day ordinance. It is set to expire I think it's April 20th, which happens to fall on a Saturday, so I think realistically it would be April 19th. So if we were to come up with an alternate language, we would need to do that between now and April 19th, and have a different 60-day window, which I think could also work if you wanted to consider it at your next meeting.
Mr. Mayor? I'd just like to say, I think we should go ahead with this process just because next time we may need to use it again. As a registered professional engineer, a PE is a designation. It doesn't mean I'm an engineer, it means I'm a certified professional engineer. And I would think that with any kind of design plans and whatnot, they're always signed and sealed by a registered professional engineer. That may be enough, because they could lose their license if something goes wrong with the project that they've designed. So is that enough for us on this project?
As I understand it, that is pretty much the extent of what the engineers are willing to do. Stamp, sign it, basically indicating
Yeah.
that they are professional engineers.
Yeah, they have.
But not, right now, we have the requirement they seal it, sign it, and include the certification statement that the wall as designed will not make erosion worse for the surrounding areas. And they're just saying they
I mean, they can
They
lose
can't
their
do that.
livelihood if you pull their license, so, that's what you're really doing.
So, yeah.
Elizabeth, yeah.
Thank you. So that's the section that's giving them the heartburn that we've added here in the red that says, which I've wondered what under normal conditions is, that they're not going to design them in a way that's impacting their neighbors. So the decision point up here is whether it's not that their wall is not sound structurally or
That's correct.
engineering. It's what they may do to their neighbor due to their installation of this
That's correct.
wall.
Yeah,
They're not willing to say that they aren't going to impact.
Yeah, in discussions with them, and they gave examples of a wall goes out, it's, no mitigation work is done, and this wall is out exposed for years on end. You're kind of 10 years into the future, and this thing's been out there. They can't, or I guess they would not have themselves kind of hanging out there as having certified that it will never make erosion worse around them. So yes, to your point, it is the language saying they're signing off that there's no way this is going to adversely impact their neighbors. It's not a concern about their own clients' protection.
And Mac or Nicole, do we need to vote to defer this as well, since it's an ordinance proposed, or what's the proper path?
You could defer it, or you could just vote it down, and the existing ordinance
Stays in
stays in
effect.
place unamended, yeah.
Okay.
That seems like the cleaner path.
We just renew it.
Start over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so can we have a motion to,
We just a motion to approve, and then everybody votes no.
got it.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, sorry.
Are you changing your vote?
It's a habit we get into.
Okay, Ashley.
Douglas, thank you for running point on that.
Thank you.
Next item, resolutions and proclamations. Proclamation 2024-01, Arbor Day. If we can have a motion, and if you want to waive the reading or not.
Wade Green?
Motion waive reading.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Proclamation 2024-02, recognition of Peace Officer Memorial Day. And I don't mind reading this one. Chief did a lot of work on this one, so motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Read it real quick. Proclamation 2024-02, proclamation and recognition of Peace Officers Memorial Day. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund reported that 136 federal, state, tribal, and local law enforcement officers died in the line of duty in the United States during the year of 2023. And whereas the members of the law enforcement agency of the City of Isle of Palms play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the City of Isle of Palms. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties of law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the City of Isle of Palms Police Department unceasingly provide this vital public service. And now therefore be it resolved by the Isle of Palms City Council hereby proclaim and call upon all citizens of the Isle of Palms and upon all patriotic and civic organizations to observe the week of May 12th through May 18th, 2024 as Police Week, in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in so doing have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security for all citizens. Furthermore, by the City of Isle of Palms City Council hereby proclaim and call upon all citizens of the City of Isle of Palms to recognize May 15th, 2024 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who through their courageous deeds have made the ultimate sacrifice and service to the communities that they serve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Chief, thank you for putting that together. Next item is Proclamation 2024-03, American Red Cross Month. And again, we can motion with the waive reading if you're so inclined.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And waive reading,
With
David?
waive reading, yes,
Thank you.
sorry.
And Jan, second. Okay with that. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Thank you. Last item, executive session in accordance with South Carolina Code Section 30-4-70A2 to receive legal advice regarding South Carolina DHEC versus Reddy's, Vanderhams et al. Versus IOP, and the noise ordinance. Council may take action upon matters discussed in executive session upon returning from executive session. Is there a motion?
Motion.
So moved.